Okay, happy that you're here with me today. We're going to be going over the review slides that I made for the exam. These are only the really big ideas. You definitely want to review your Quizlet terms as well, and really make sure that you're also reviewing your textbook in addition. So we're going to first talk about the demographic transition model, which you should definitely know. I can move myself around here a little bit. You should know these stages. You should know what's happening with birth rates and death rates. You should know that no country in the world is really in stage one. Stage two is where we see the huge population explosion as the death rates drop, and that gap between birth rates and death rates, this is where, and even in stage three a little bit, this is where we're creating a huge natural increase rate, which is measured by birth rates minus death rates. The flip side of that, though, is as countries grow technologically, get richer, people move to cities, that birth rate declines, and then we enter stage four, or even stage five, where we have death rates actually passing birth rates, which means your population is getting old. And here we're looking at that actually happening. This is Japan. It's underneath me. You can't read it, but this is Japan 1950. You'll see this is a kind of a traditional, we would probably say this is a stage two. Lots of young people here, lots of future growth. You'll also see the effects of World War II, where we're missing some men, some males here. But by 2010, we notice that people are having fewer and fewer children. We're really looking here at probably a stage four, and then even a stage five by 2050, which we're really looking at a geriatric society. You'll also notice that there are quite a few more women than there are men. And we're not surprised because men are 3 times stupider than women. This page, I would recommend you look at this data sheet. This is the same data sheet that you guys made in class, but you should know what the top 4 countries are in terms of population, as well as the natural increase rates in different regions. And the only region with a significant natural increase rate is going to be, drumroll please, Africa. Okay, all the other regions of the world are going to have either very low or even negative, in the case of Europe, natural increase rates as of 2023 when we're recording this video. Look at my terrible handwriting. Boy, it's hard to write on the screen. You should definitely know different kinds of diffusion, particularly related to culture, how culture spreads over space, and we spend a lot of time just looking at language and religion. We'll look at them a little bit more in a second. But relocation diffusion is when people move to new places and they bring their culture with them, like their fabulous Georgian-style architecture or their foxhound hunting. That's relocation diffusion. Expansion diffusion is when people bring their culture spreads in other ways. The ones that you're going to see on the exam are hierarchical and contagious. We've talked a lot about those, and really for all 3 of these, you should be able to provide specific examples, particularly when we're talking about religion and language. You're not going to need to know stimulus diffusion for the exam, but you should know that as a human being living on the surface of the earth. You should understand how people adapt when they're faced with a dominant culture, and some groups choose to assimilate, which means complete adoption of the dominant culture. Some groups choose to acculturate, which means keeping some things and losing the other. And we talked about the fact that for most immigrant groups to the United States, what is kept tends to be religion and food are the 2 aspects of culture that are kept. Things like language are typically lost by the 3rd generation. We've talked a little bit about how language is diffused over space, and we're looking at a map of where English is spoken, and we might say, oh, this is an example of relocation diffusion as colonists move, and then maybe hierarchical diffusion as Britain colonized other countries and either forced or strongly encouraged, particularly the elite, to learn English. There's probably some contagious diffusion happening in many of these places, as well as people learn English from other people who are speaking English around them. Probably want to think about how the internet impacts this. But the key is that you understand different aspects of diffusion and how those might be spreading things out over space. Finally, this is the last slide. You should know the hearths of the major religions, and particularly the major universalizing religions. You should know the founders of the universalizing religions, and you should definitely know what universalizing means and what ethnic means. And just as a reminder, universalizing means that this is open to many different groups, and ethnic means that it's really located in a specific geography. And so you will be expected to be able to talk about how Christianity diffused out of its hearth to other parts of the world, how Islam diffused out of its hearth to other parts of the world, and how Buddhism diffused out of its hearth to other parts of the world. And you should also be able to talk about this idea of pilgrimages. And it turns out, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, that for universalizing religions, pilgrimages tend to focus on aspects of the founder's life, whether that's the place where they were born or places that they visited, or even parts of the body. So we talked about the fact that in many pagodas in South and Southeast Asia, there are, in theory, that contains remnants of the some part of the body of a Buddha, of a bodhisattva, or even the Buddha himself. We talked about the fact that if you go to St. Peter's Cathedral, you can see the bones of a saint whose name is not coming to me at this moment. And in addition, you should know that for ethnic religions, pilgrimages often go to sites of natural importance, so local sites. We talked about Ayers Rock in Australia, actually known as Uluru is the indigenous name. And we talked about the fact that when you die, and if you're a Hindu, your best bet for a good rebirth is going to have your ashes scattered in the Ganges River, not the Potomac, not the Thames, but the Ganges is the place that you want to be. And then that specific aspect of geography means that's an ethnic religion. Let me know if you guys have any questions along the way. As you get ready for this, and I'm moving myself over here, and I'm going to stop this, and good luck.